I think what I said, just not taking in the information, was let me talk to Dad. And then I think I hung up, she hung up the phone line, that call ended. But then we were again on another phone call, and then the phone was passed around to some other people.
All right. So when the phone call ended, did you call somebody? Did you call your father's line at that point?
I believe I did, because I hung up and then tried my dad's line, no answer, and then I believe I had gotten a call back from Jessica's number, I think was the order of events. But then that second round of conversations begun.
And then did you speak to Jessica briefly before you said the phone got passed around?
I think so, for just a moment. And I think she said, here, gave it to Deborah.
Deborah. Do you know somebody by the name of Deborah?
So Deborah Obad was a neighbor of theirs, and sort of like one of the only family friends from the area, I suppose.
Had you met her when you would come to visit once a year to
Yes.
Los Angeles to visit your dad?
Yes.
Okay. And so you knew who she was?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And did you also speak to the defendant during that same phone call?
Yes.
And did the defendant relay information to you from the defendant?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. Did Deborah relay information to you from the defendant, your stepmom?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did she say to you from the defendant?
Objection, calls for speculation, no foundation.
I'll hear it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when Deborah came on the phone with me, she said to me, Monica's freaking out about money, worried that they're not going to have money, and that there's money coming to me, and so that I would help them with the money that I was to receive, because they need the help.
So one of the first things that was said to you was that Monica was freaking out about money, and that money was coming to you.
And that I was to get money, therefore, the presumption was that I was going to give them money to help.
When you say the presumption, you're saying Deborah and Monica said that you would give Monica money?
Yeah, Deborah was like, don't worry, he'll give it to you, basically very presumptuously. And
She's talking to Monica as she's on the phone with you?
And then relaying it to me and saying, you got to help them out. They're going to need help with money, this, that, and the other.
Okay. And then did you, in fact, the phone get passed to the defendant so you could speak with your stepmother?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did she say to you?
As soon as the phone was passed to Monica and we spoke for the first time after the murder, the first words out of her mouth were regarding life insurance money.
What did she say specifically, if you recall?
Yep. She says, there's money coming to you. Your dad took care of you. There's money coming to you. You'll be able to buy a house. You'll be able to buy a car. That was the topic of conversation.
Did she say anything to you about there being a life insurance policy?
Yes.
And what did she say about that?
That you have money coming to you from life insurance. You'll be able to buy a house. You'll be able to buy a car. Your dad took care of you with these things that will now be paid out.
And did she specifically say to you that there was a hefty life insurance policy?
Objection, leading.
I'll allow it.
Big, yes. Lots of life insurance was up for grabs here. That was the message that was given.
Okay. But do you recall using the words when you spoke with detectives previously that the words she used, the defendant, was that there was a hefty life insurance policy?
Yes.
Okay. And at the point in time when the defendant said to you, there's money coming to you, your dad took care of you, you can buy a house or you can buy a car, did you know anything about what she was speaking?
No, I had no idea about any of this. No.
So you did not know anything about, you had not had prior conversations with your father about any type of policy
Nope.
regarding you as a beneficiary?
No, none of the policies, not even the one set up with the divorce from my mom. I didn't even know about that one. So no, I didn't know about any of that.
Your mother had never told you about such a policy either.
No.
Was that a policy that you subsequently to your father's murder learned was through a company in Canada called Manulife?
That's correct, and it was set up according to Canadian law with regards to divorce settlements. It had to be set up at the time, and then, of course, this being a long time ago, no reason for me to think about it. My dad's alive and healthy, and then I learn about it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, did, other than talking about this significant amount of money that was coming your way, did the defendant talk to you that night about anything else other than life insurance? Or was that the only topic she spoke about?
Objection, this states the evidence.
Oh,
The night of the murder,
Yes.
that was the only topic of conversation.
And this was a conversation that you had with the defendant within perhaps an hour, a couple hours of your dad's murder?
An hour, yeah. Yeah. A couple of hours would probably be generous. Yeah.
What was your state of mind at that point in time?
Completely in shock, reduced to bafflement. Don't know what's real anymore. Trying to just keep my feet beneath me. Trying to figure out, just then think more logistically. What are the next few days going to look like? And then, just. It's one of those moments where your life changes in the moment, and you don't really know how to deal with it. So.
Where were you when you got this call?
It was in my basement apartment that I was renting at school. Yeah.
And as the defendant was talking to you about the fact that there's this hefty life insurance policy that your father had set up for you, was she crying as she was speaking to you?
No tears. I did hear some, exacerbated breathing going on.
Like you didn't hear her crying, but you heard breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of exacerbated breathing?
Like a kind of hyperventilating going on.
Okay.
Yeah. But the words and the message were very clear and coming out between each voice. Yeah.
You mean between Jessica's voice, between Deborah's voice, and between your stepmother's voice?
Between the hyperventilations,
I see.
everything was very clearly communicated, and yeah.
So in other words, you could understand what your stepmother was saying to you clearly.
Oh yes.
And subsequent to that, did you have phone calls with your other family in Canada?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And did you and other members of your family fly down to the Los Angeles area on Wednesday? That would have been January 25th of 2017?
Yep.
And while you were in Los Angeles, were you staying again at your father's home, or were you staying elsewhere, if you recall?
Yeah, so that was kind of a point of contention. I was thinking about where am I going to stay. I assumed everyone was just going to be staying at hotels. Surprised to hear that that wasn't the case, and that the defendant and I believe even my stepsisters were still staying at the house. I stayed in a hotel.
Okay. During the day, did you and your family come over every day to your father's home? What was your father's home on Queen Victoria?
That's correct.
The defendant and the girls were staying in the home?
That's correct.
During that period of time while you were in Los Angeles with family after your father's death, did you attend a viewing that took place at a funeral home?
Yes.
And that would have been January 29th?
I believe so.
And subsequent to that, some type of a wake or a memorial or a gathering in the backyard that night?
Yes.
And while you were in town that week, did the defendant do anything that was unusual that you found to be unusual?
Objection, relevance, calls for speculation.
oh.
Did she give you anything?
Yeah, so when I showed up to the Queen Victoria house, first time coming and seeing Monica in person since the murder, she hands me the Rolex watch that my dad was wearing when he was killed. She also asked me to go through and take anything from the wardrobe or like his stuff.
You mean like his clothing?
Clothing and basically anything. Just kind of brought me through the walk-in closet and said, take whatever you want.
She escorted you into the master bedroom walk-in closet?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes, that's yes.
And told you to take anything you wanted?
Correct.
Okay. At some point during your stay in Los Angeles, while you and your family were there, that include, by the way, your aunts Loretta and Morella,
Mm-hmm.
and your uncle Marco,
Yes.
and some of your cousins?
Yes. Yep.
Did, at any point in time, did the defendant ask you to come upstairs?
Yes.
And where upstairs did she ask you to follow her to?
It was that computer room where I previously tested that I would sleep in that room because there was like a bed off to the side.
Okay. In Exhibit 74, to the left of the photograph, on the left, there are some beds set up. Is that right?
Oh yeah, you can see the bed in the corner there. Yeah.
With the white, looks like maybe turquoise and brown or black pattern on it.
That's it.
Okay. It looks like there's a red number 2 in the left-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
She called you up into the family room. She asked you to sit down on a couch, or what was the purpose of this?
No, so she brought me up to the computer area because you can see on the right there, next to the monitor is a printer, and then that printer is where it was printed out. This document that was the reason for me being brought up to be shown this document, and the document was a table showing the beneficiaries of the estate and all of the different sources of life insurance that would be due to be paid to each beneficiary and in what percentages.
Your Honor, I have a document that appears to be a ledger of sorts regarding beneficiaries of a life insurance policy, along with other stock options, profit shares, things of that nature. May it be marked as People 75?
Yes.
Showing you People 75. Do you recognize this document here?
I sure do.
Okay. And was a version of this document at that time showed to you by the defendant?
Yes.
Your
Well,
Honor, we would object. The vaguest version and identification of the witness, I think you should be precise.
Well, the defendant showed you a document similar to this one?
yes, many times.
Or this one?
Several times, yes.
Okay.
In one instance, I was brought up, like we were saying, I was brought up to that room, and a fresh version was printed out, a hard copy. Yeah.
Okay. And was the defendant showing you this document?
Oh, yes.
And what, if anything, did she say about the document that looked like this, that she printed out that day while you were in town that week for your father's viewing and wake?
Yes, so when she printed out the document, she was showing it to me. It was just me and her up there. She was looking at it, looking down, smiling at it, and even in this strange way, petting this piece of paper.
What do you mean by petting?
Just looking at it as though it was some precious thing that she was holding on to in her hands, kind of moving her hand across it.
Sorry.
And,
Calls for speculation.
That's the term precious thing. That'll be stricken. Everything else remains.
So she was moving her hand across the document.
yeah, it sounds silly, but I know what I saw. I was being shown this document, and I was being shown, look at how fantastically large all of these numbers are. Isn't this great? That's what happened.
And on the document, did the defendant point out for you and make any statements about how much money you were expected to receive?
Yes, because that's included in the document.
Okay, and that, if we look at this document, it has your name at the top in a couple of different locations. but it also has the name Monica, and then Jessica and Isabella's names, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And along the left side of the document, there is different types of sources or types of properties, such as life insurance, P&G stocks, Merrill Lynch, Wells Fargo, profit-sharing retirement accounts, things of that nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And percentages, is that right?
That's right.
In each column for each person?
That's correct. Percentages for each of the beneficiaries and how much of what was being allotted to whom. That's
Okay.
correct.
And this was within a few days of your father's murder at this house, is
Yes,
that right?
just a few days. Yep.
And from the version of the document that she showed you that day, who was getting the most amount of money? Which beneficiary was getting the largest portion?
Monica, the defendant.
The foundation.
It's overruled.
And did you have other conversations with the defendant that week about money?
Yes,
And who would bring that up?
she would.
And approximately how many times did she talk to you about money that week while you were in town?
That week, probably half a dozen. And then in the months leading up to the arrest, I would say 75% of every conversation was about money, and not just money in general, but specifically about the life insurance.
So after you returned home to Canada, you continued having conversations with the defendant?
Yes, I wanted to check in and just try and be strong for them and see how they're doing there, because I'm far away. So
So did you regularly call or text?
I would regularly text. Yeah,
And who would you regularly text?
Monica.
Okay. More than you would so before your father's murder?
Yes.
Okay. And during the conversations that you would have with the defendant via text, was there also conversations that took place via phone?
Via phone call?
Yes.
I believe so, but it was mostly the text messaging that I recall. Yeah.
And you said most of those conversations, 75% of them, had to do with money and mostly life insurance.
Yes, it was about the life insurance, this document, and over time the different figures being filled in with actual numbers. So it was that. It was a lot of frustration over her not receiving her portion of the life insurance and the different things that they were trying to do, the tactics they were trying to do to get them to pay out. And then thirdly, the fact that they were struggling with money, I was told.
When you just narrated off like these topics, were these the topics of conversation that you had with the defendant
Yes.
after your father's death?
Correct. These were the topics of conversations I had with the defendant after my father's death. And like I said, the vast majority of them pertained to life insurance, money, and the lack of money on a day-to-day basis now that my dad was not around.
So she was complaining to you about the fact that she claimed she was having money problems.
That's right.
Did she complain to you that she was struggling over bills and things of that nature? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
That's overruled.
Did she ever tell you that she was getting your father's salary through Wella for a 6-month period after his death?
I was completely unaware of that until after she was arrested.
She never told you that?
I was never told. She never told me that.
Did she ever talk to you about her dealings with law enforcement? Bless you.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Early on, having people come over to identify jewelry to try and connect it with other cases.
Did she ever talk to you about the fact that she thought law enforcement was keeping things from her?
Objection, reading.
Overruled.
Yes.
And you said that she expressed frustration.
Mm-hmm.
What was she expressing frustration about?
Yes. So the frustration was starting to come up because I had received some of my life insurance as a beneficiary, and when this was mentioned, that's when the frustration came up because one of the other beneficiaries, right, has received something and she had not. And
Okay.
so that was the source of the frustration.
And did she also express frustration to you that although you had been cleared by law enforcement, that she had not?
Yes.
Or
During this period of time, did you express sympathy and support for the defendant?
Yes.
Was some of that based on your following of any of her social media accounts?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And what was it on the social media accounts that caused you to feel a particular way?
Yeah, just the posts that came out after the murder, which all seemed to point towards the grieving widow. So lots of very sentimental, saccharine posts about their marriage and how great it was and how it was such a tragedy what happened. So yeah, a lot of people. These were highly visible posts being made.
They were public, right?
Yeah, people were seeing them, and of course, in the wake of what happened, and that my dad was popular on these channels as well. People were liking them and commenting and sympathizing. Yeah, absolutely.
And you did that.
Of course. Yeah.
And you followed her posts.
Yes. Yeah.
You felt heartbroken for her.
Of course. Yeah. That's why, as I mentioned before, I'm calling. Reaching out, calling, connecting, just trying to check in and say, how are you? More often than not, more often than I did before, because of in light of all of this stuff happening. So yeah, for sure, we were all grieving together and for her, for sure, at the time.
And you went out of your way to express that to your stepmother.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you say that after your father's murder, up until the time of her arrest, that you became, at least from your side, that you felt like you had become closer with
Yes,
the defendant?
absolutely.
And subsequent to your you and your family coming to Los Angeles in the days following your father's murder, did the defendant and the girls and all of your family travel back to Toronto for various memorials, funerals, things of that nature with respect to your father?
That's correct. We all went back to Toronto and did a whole other set of funeral events. Yeah.
Okay. And is that because your family, your father's side of the family, is in Canada?
Yes.
And, Your Honor, I have a photograph showing the defendant and the victim's 3 children in the back of a vehicle that we marked as People 76.
yes,
Thank you. Showing you People 76. Do you recognize what you see here?
Yep.
And what is this?
We're in the back of some kind of black car service to the funeral, I believe. Yeah, the Big Daddy hats there. We all were wearing those. I was one of the pallbearers and was wearing the hat as well. So that's from that event.
And your 2 sisters are seated next to you along with your stepmother,
Yes.
wearing the hat with the black veil.
That's right.
Now, what does Big Daddy refer to?
My dad's nickname.
Oh, so was he referred to as Big Daddy in the industry, and is that something you guys use?
Yeah, so I think it started with work because he was such a leadership type figure at work and very charismatic, and then of course infected just kind of everything else, adopted it into his persona, so to speak, and so we affectionately called him that, even as a family, in the family as well.
Okay, and so did you and the family have these hats made for purposes of the funeral?
Yes,
So that people that attended all could wear them if they wanted?
that's right.
All right. Now, you, after the defendant returned home with the girls back to the Los Angeles area, did you get a series of text messages from her with respect to money?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a series of 5 pages. It's titled Text Exchange Between Defendant and Sementilli, February 9th of 2017. At the bottom left corner, there appears to be the numbers 4 through 8. May these be marked, please, as people's 77, 78, 79, 80, and 81.
Very well.
Thank you. Starting with Exhibit 77, which has a number 4 in the bottom left corner. At the very top, the very first line, February 9th, 2017, 8:55 p.m. This is UTC time, so from a phone number.
That's my phone number.
And it has your name right underneath.
It sure does.
And to the right, it says, "Hey Mo, how did things go today?" Mo, what is that? Who does that refer to?
That's the defendant, Monica.
Is that how you would refer to her?
Yes.
And your father, did he also refer to his wife, the defendant, as Mo?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And does this, in fact, appear to be the first portion of a text exchange asking the defendant about how something went today?
Yes.
And did this have to do with a conversation that you had previously had with the defendant about the life insurance policy?
That's correct.
Showing you people 78 following along the second page. If we go to the top of 78, at 8:19, that same day, is this a communication that came in from the defendant to you with about numbers?
That's correct.
And then subsequent to that, at 8:20, did you text her, "Okay, Mo, have a good night"?
Yes, I did.
All right. And then she texted you too. Is that right?
That's correct.
Showing you Exhibit 79 that has a number 6 in the bottom left corner. February 9th, 8:26:04 p.m. Is this, again, a message from the defendant to you?
That's correct.
And she is texting you big numbers, unbelievable. I'm at Best Buy. When I get home, I'll text you pic of what you have coming so far, but then delete it.
That's correct. I received that message.
Okay. And so she was telling you to delete the picture she was going to send you?
Yes.
Send the text for itself.
Oh,
Yes, she was. She was going to send me a picture related to life insurance and then requesting that I delete the picture once I receive it.
Okay. And subsequent to that, we see at 8:26 and 32 seconds p.m. you responded, "Okay, I will." Is that right?
That's right.
Showing you People's 80. Another exchange of text messages coming in February 9th at 9 p.m. There's a JPEG or a photograph, and then underneath at 9:03 and 14 seconds p.m. Again, there's a message coming in to you. Is that right?
That's right.
And is this from the defendant?
That's correct.
And so here she wrote you, "Question marks are the unknown. So more is coming. As it stands, girls are lower percentages plus your Manulife. Is Manulife the policy that you told us about is required by law in divorce settlements in Canada?"
That's correct.
Great investments also, and life insurance is not taxable, exclamation point, and then a photograph. That photograph, is that what we see here to the right?
That's correct.
Okay. So this shows, again, a picture that the defendant sent to you with a breakdown showing 25%, 20%, and another 20%, and a total of $259,792,000.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
So this is what she sent you and asked you to delete. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Showing you People's 81. It has a 8 in the lower left-hand corner. February 9, 2017, 9:04 and 56 seconds p.m. Is this a message from you back to Monica?
Yes.
And in this, did you say, okay, I'll delete it, we know the rest tomorrow?
That's correct.
And then she responded at 9:06 and 13 seconds back to you,
Yes.
saying, no, Monday is phone call meeting so we can all know the question marks.
That's correct.
When you said that the defendant would send you various versions of that initial document and then fill in portions, that's when I was showing you People 75, correct?
Correct.
And so she would send you various versions of this document and have question marks put in certain areas?
That's correct. And then over time, as I saw new versions, those question marks were filled in with the actual accurate figures.
Your Honor, I have another document which appears to be a text exchange dated March 16, 2017 at 2:45 p.m. May this document be marked, please, as People's 82?
It may.
Thank you. Showing you People's 82. Is this, again, a text message that you received from the defendant on March 16th of 2017 at 2:45 and 59 seconds p.m.?
Yes.
And did she direct you to call her when you received a particular image or JPEG file?
Correct.
Your Honor, I have a photograph of that JPEG file. May it be marked, please, as People's 83?
Yes.
With respect to People's 82, Your Honor, for the record, there appears to be an 11 in the left hand, a red box with the number 11 in the left-hand corner. Bottom. Showing you People's 83. Does this appear to be a copy of the image the defendant sent you on March 16th?
Yes, if you could put the other one back for a second. Yes, that is the one.
Okay. If I turn this document on its side, does this appear to be, once again, a portion of that initial document the defendant showed you when you were in Los Angeles with numbers filled in and columns for you and both your sisters?
That's correct.
Now, in approximately, or on February 28th of 2017, do you recall the defendant being in Toronto and meeting with her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And where did you meet up with her? Where was she staying?
It would have been at her mother's house in Woodbridge.
Okay. And Woodbridge is a suburb?
Yeah, it's in the Greater Toronto area.
And so you went to see her and the girls when they came in to town?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
That's a yes, yeah.
Okay. And during that period, while she was in Toronto, during the week of February 28th of 2017, and did you see her and the girls during that time period?
That's correct.
Okay. And did the defendant tell you during that time period that she was liquidating some stock options?
So,
Yes, I was told that stock options were being liquidated to the effect of, I believe it was $100,000 or so, and I was asked by the defendant if I would relinquish my portion of what was due to me, because I was to receive more than my sisters.
That was because of the Manulife policy?
Sorry, say again?
Because of the Manulife policy?
Yeah, yes, because of the Manulife policy and the way the percentages were in general, it looked like I was due to receive more than my sisters. But regardless, I was asked to relinquish my portion of that stock option.
Okay. And so this was did the defendant tell you that this stock options were through P&G, Procter & Gamble?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so the defendant asked if you would give up your portion of your of the P&G stock options so that your sisters could have more.
That's correct.
And did the defendant tell you that she needed you to do this because she indicated she was having financial problems?
it's getting close.
I'll ask it another way. Did the defendant tell you why she wanted you to give up your portion of the stock options?
Yes.
And why was that?
You are still under oath, and people may continue with their direct examination.
When the family flew back to Toronto from Los Angeles, as we discussed, for the various funeral events, was there a disagreement or a something that the defendant decided to do relative to your father's funeral that upset the family?
Yeah. So the defendant was saying that my dad had always wanted to be cremated. On my dad's side, everyone was a little bit puzzled by this. Hadn't heard him say that before, nor had I heard him say that before. But at the time, we weren't in a position to be challenging the authority of, what we thought was a grieving widow. So that ended up being what happened. He was cremated, and even to this day, a lot of people in the family are just like another question, another puzzled moment as to why and how that. Yeah.
So you had never had your dad had never said to you that his wish was to be cremated.
He never said that to me. No, not
And
once.
had anybody in your family, your father's family, ever been cremated before?
No.
And so when you all flew back to Toronto, the defendant had your father cremated?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I have a photograph of this particular witness holding, it looks like what might be an urn, if it could be marked as people's next in order.
84.
Showing you People's 84. Do you recognize what you see here?
Yep.
I'll allow it.
What do we see here?
That's me holding an urn that has my father's ashes in it.
And was that photograph taken at one of the funeral events back in Canada?
That's correct. This is the Queen of Heaven mausoleum.
Queen of Heaven mausoleum?
That's correct.
Okay. During this February 28th of 2017 visit, when you said that the defendant mentioned that she was liquidating your father's P&G stock options that were somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 and wanted you to give up your portion, did you go with her to a bank in Toronto?
I sure did. It was a TD bank.
What is a TD bank?
I believe it's Toronto Dominion. It's like one of the bank branches in Canada.
Okay. And was it just you and the defendant?
That's correct.
And what was your purpose, or what was the defendant's purpose in going to TD Bank that day?
Yes, I was tagging along as she was going to close an account specifically to look into a safety deposit box that was still there in the name of the estate, or in my dad's name.
Okay. And so you accompanied the defendant to the bank to look in your father's security or safety deposit box?
That's correct.
Was there anything inside?
The box was empty.
And the defendant say anything?
The defendant, yes. When the box was opened, and even leading up to the box, there was kind of like this anticipation of this moment of, was the defendant going to find out that my dad was living some secret life or something like that, which of course is not the case. And then when the box was opened, and on the way home, it was remarked again, okay, so he didn't have any kind of secret life. And that was the end of that. Yeah.
So she said, when you say it was said, you're meaning she said, the defendant said?
That's right.
No secret life.
Yes, there was concern about whether maybe there was one leading up to opening the box. When the box was opened and revealed to be empty, it was then remarked again afterwards, okay, so then there was no secret life. So there was a concern about this, yeah.
By the defendant?
By the defendant, that's
correct.
correct.
Or at least as far as what she expressed to you?
That's correct.
All right. And did your father and the defendant ever talk to you about a corporation that your father founded under the name LGI Consulting?
Yes, they did mention it to me. LGI Industries, I can't remember the name of the thing, but LGI, yes, it was this this business entity that they had put together, and it was mentioned to me because of the name LGI, which are the first initials of myself and my two half-sisters.
Okay. I have a photograph, Your Honor, of a Wells Fargo Visa card in the name of the defendant. May this be marked, please, as People's 85.
Yes.
Showing you People's 85, LGI Consulting. Is this the company that you discussed both with the defendant and your father prior to his death?
LGI, that is correct, yes.
And LGI stands for Luigi, Jessica, Isabella?
That's correct.
You don't know what type of consulting business it was, correct?
I don't know the purpose of creating this entity, but yeah.
Thank you. Now, after the defendant returned to the United States, after the various funeral events and then this February 28th visit, did the defendant ever tell you that she had purchased a new Fiat?
I believe that was after a car accident that my half-sister Isabella had gotten into, and then another white Fiat was purchased for her, yes.
And that, again, was told to you by the defendant that she purchased a new white Fiat?
Correct.
Because Isabella had had a traffic collision in the red Fiat?
That's correct.
And did the defendant also tell you that she turned in Fabio's truck, your father's truck, sold his Porsche? She mentioned any of those things?
One moment. Again, I will never rule on an objection prior to the end of the question. You can finish your question.
Did the defendant ever mention to you whether she had ever turned in your father's truck?
Yes.
What did she say?
The other vehicles were sold, and they got the Mustang.
Did she also tell you that what she did with your father's Porsche?
That it was sold, I believe.
And that she bought a new Mustang?
Yes.
Did you receive, after the defendant's arrest, a phone call from a Detective Parshall with the LAPD
Yes.
in June of 2017?
Yep.
And after he told you that the defendant had been arrested, did you tell Detective Parshall about the fact that the defendant had, subsequent to your father's murder, constantly brought up the subject of money and life insurance?
Yes.
Did you also tell him that the defendant, as you've told this jury, had claimed that the police were withholding information from her?
That's correct.
And did you also tell Detective Parshall about the fact that the defendant had asked you to give up your share of your inherited stock options that your father left to you?
That is correct.
Did you also tell him about the conversation that you had within an hour or two of your father's murder with the defendant and Deborah Obad about the life insurance money coming to you?
That's correct.
Have you spoken to the defendant since her arrest in June 14th of 2017?
I have not.
Sometime at the end of June or even into July of 2017, did you receive a communication from your sister Jessica?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that yes?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did Jessica communicate to you?
Jessica's.
So it's overruled on both grounds.
Go ahead.
Yep. Jessica texted me and said, "Mom wants to talk to you."
Okay. And what was your response?
I said no.
So she told you that the defendant wanted to call you from jail?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes. Sorry. That's yes.
And you declined?
And I declined.
Would it be fair to say that the defendant's arrest and some of the information that you and your family have received has caused a large
Relevance, argument.
Finish your question, please.
rift in your family?
It's overruled on the second ground and the first.
I can answer?
Sure.
Yeah, not only would it be fair to say that, but it's absolutely the truth. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a very limited relationship at this point with your two sisters?
That's correct.
Since the defendant's arrest, have they come to Canada to visit you and your father's family at all?
A few times, yeah.
They visited with your father's side of the family?
Sorry, good point. Let me clarify. When they come to town, they'll make time to go out to lunch with me, but they don't speak or see the rest of my dad's family. It's me and one other cousin, my cousin Daniel, that they will tolerate as like a safe space for when they visit and we go out to lunch. But other than that, no, they don't talk to my dad's side of the family whatsoever and haven't in almost 8 years.
Prior to your father's murder, what would you have said was the most important thing to him?
Family, yeah. Family and myself and my two half-sisters. And yeah, even before, when we were kids, he would always say, those aren't your half-sisters, those are your sisters.
So stand on the first ground.
I have nothing further.
Ms. Burke?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Sementilli.
Good morning.
Mr. Sementilli, when the court recessed just now, there was a break in the proceedings. Did you go and speak with the...
Thanks. I'm sorry.
What did you do during the break?
I went to the bathroom, I got a bottle of water, and I sat here.
Okay. Did you speak to the prosecutor or the detectives in the case?
When I was in the Hollywood with them, yes, they told me that I was doing a good job, and that's it.
Okay. So you didn't discuss anything about any of the facts in the case or any of your testimony?
No.
Okay. And Mr. Sementilli, am I...
You didn't answer.
Oh, sorry, the answer is no.
And am I correct? You've met a number of times, you've spoken a number of times to the prosecutors in the case?
Over the last 8 years, yes, I have.
How many times?
Over the last 8 years, probably a dozen times.
Okay. And have you ever met with them?
This is my second time meeting them in person.
Okay. And the first time was when?
Was Baker's sentencing.
Okay. And Mr. Sementilli, am I correct that you, the first time you ever had any discussions with the police or prosecutors was after your stepmom's arrest? Is that right?
Correct. I would say that's correct. I got a call from, I believe it was Porsche, one of the detectives on the case, and that was right after the arrest. Yeah.
You received a call from Detective Parshall
I believe it was, yeah.
informing you that they had arrested your stepmom.
Yes.
And that was shocking to you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You had never, during this whole period of time since your dad had been killed, ever reached out at any time to the detectives, correct?
No.
You
Myself,
never
no.
made any mention of anything that you thought was unusual or strange to the detectives in the case about your stepmom, correct?
Did I bring anything to their attention that I thought was unusual or strange? No. You know, at the time, when you're grieving like that, you know, you don't put those pieces together immediately, right? It's a lot easier to do that after the fact.
After they've told you that they're accusing your stepmom of this terrible thing.
Right, yeah, but then once you go back and start recollecting, it becomes very clear, the puzzle pieces fit together very easily. So at the time, no, but once I heard this advancement in the case, you know, the clouds cleared and things started making sense again.
I see. And that was also after the detectives called you and told you their opinions about the case, correct?
That was in the same phone call.
Okay. And when they called you, they didn't just tell you that your stepmom had been arrested. They told you that they believed your stepmom had been having an affair with the man who had murdered your dad, correct?
That's correct. They gave me all of the details of the case as they put it together.
Their theory, their opinions about what the evidence was in the case, correct?
They relayed to me the evidence of the case.
They told you also their opinion in that phone call,
So, yeah.
telling you that Monica Sementilli had been arrested, that they believed that she had done this for insurance, correct?
That's correct. Now, I had asked them as well, because it's my stepmom at the time, and I said to them, like, in your professional opinion, could this be a mistake? You know, what's going on here? How does it look from your perspective, everything you know? And then, yes, they, of course, gave their opinion on the matter, which is that it was a very damning case with a lot of evidence, which I also saw as well.
They told you that. They thought it was a very damning case with a lot of evidence.
That's correct.
Okay. And in fact, you questioned the detective about the insurance, about some kind of financial motive. You, at the time, when you spoke to the detective, said that she's just not that kind of person. any more than anyone else in my family. Do you remember saying that?
I don't remember saying that, no. Yeah.
Okay. But you had questions about the theory that was being presented to you that somehow Monica had done this for insurance.
Yeah, so when you get a call at midnight from a detective, right, across the continent, and all of this information is being dumped on you, of course I want to know, outside of what they have to tell me, I want to get an inkling of what they think as a person. And that's why I asked them. I didn't ask it because I didn't ask it because I was skeptical of these things. I asked it because I wanted more information and wanted to hear get under the bonnet, so to speak, of what this detective thinks, as opposed to what they're doing this courtesy call for me to tell me this update. So yeah, it was not so much questioning them because I didn't believe it. I was questioning them to get more information.
But you also told them that your aunt, Morella, and Marco were having trouble believing it as well, correct?
I told
The detective.
that so when I spoke to the detective, in that phone call was the first time I was told about all of this, so I wouldn't have had a chance to speak with my aunt or Marco at that point.
But later, after you did, you had a conversation with the detectives about their questioning whether Monica could be involved, correct?
I'm not able to recall that off the top of my head here. If you had do you have a transcript of some kind that I can refresh myself with? I don't recall.
Well, if you don't recall it, you don't recall it.
Okay.
Do you recall it?
Repeat it again. Do I recall what exactly?
Do you recall ever discussing with the detectives that your Aunt Morella and Marco were also questioning whether there was really some kind of financial motive here?
I want to say no, because as soon as the arrest happened, from our family perspective, it was bittersweet. Bittersweet because we've lost another family member, but bitter because we lost a family member. On the other end, sweet because the stars did align and we did see the truth in this case. Okay. So we weren't, I don't believe we were, if a phrase was uttered like that.
Let me
Sure.
Let me rephrase.
Your Honor, I would ask the witness to be able to finish his answer.
Finish your answer, sir.
Sure. Let's say a statement was made like that to one of the detectives. I think we were just kind of doing our due diligence to say, like, is there a 1%, is there a 5% chance that this is a mistake? We were all on the same board. We kind of all understood and believed that what was presented as the case and the evidence is the case.
Okay, but it's fair to say, and I just want to be fair,
Yep.
that you were shocked when the detective called you up, correct?
Was I shocked? Yes, I was shocked, but I wasn't in disbelief. Let's put it that way, yeah.
And Mr. Sementilli, am I correct that it was only after that phone call that you were ever interviewed about anything you had observed or experienced with Monica after you were told by the detectives that they believed she had committed this murder, was involved, and it was for a financial reason?
When Monica was arrested was when I started being interviewed about my experiences with the defendant.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it was after that is what I'm asking.
Yes, that's right. Before she was arrested, I was under the impression that it was what it appeared to be, which was, a home invasion. And so I was not interviewed by detectives prior to Monica being arrested.
And you had one interview by detectives, correct?
I believe it was, it was the call from Porsche, which was really late at night, my time, and I believe one other call, which was then recorded as well. I think it was just those two calls, I want to say. One where he gave me the news that Monica was arrested, and then another one which was an interview, I believe.
An interview. And that interview was fairly lengthy?
I believe so. I want to say 45 minutes, something like that. I think.
And you told them the truth, yes?
Of course.
Okay. And you described anything that you believed was important or relevant to what they were investigating.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Sementilli, you, for the very first time, earlier today in your testimony, said that your dad and your stepmom actually had arguments that you overheard.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you described two instances where you were certain that there was an argument of some kind.
That's correct.
And that was about, you said, about infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And you testified earlier that these two instances occurred over 20 years prior to your dad being killed?
I would say 15. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to be sure I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
The first incident you described where there was any conflict between your dad and your stepmom, you said, I think you were around 9 or 10 years old.
Correct.
And there was some kind of text and you overheard a discussion.
Yes.
Okay. And you would have been 9 or 10 years old how long before your dad was killed?
Say again. Oh, when was this?
Yeah,
when would
when
this
did
have
this
been?
happen? Yeah.
This would have been probably around the year 2000.
So you would have been about 15 years old.
In the year 2000, I would have been 8 years old.
I'm sorry, you would have been 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah, around 2000, 2001, 8, 9, 10, something around that ballpark. Yeah.
Okay. And that would have been 15 years that your dad and your stepmom had been married since then before he was killed, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And the other instance you spoke about today for the first time was about something when you say you were about 12 years old?
Yep, 12 or 13.
Okay. And that would have been about 13 years before your dad had been killed,
Yeah,
correct?
04, 05, something like that.
Okay. And those were the only times that you recall ever having heard any conflict or instance of argument about any kind of infidelity or other matter.
Those were not the only times to my memory, but those are two times that stick out in my memory that I can attest to, and I remember. I can close my eyes and imagine being there. But there were domestic disputes that happened occasionally. These two were about infidelity. I remember them specifically, but there were other occasions too, and yeah.
So one when you were 9 or 10,
Yeah.
and one when you were about 12.
There were at least these two incidents, yes.
And you said that your stepsister Jessica was 6 at the time?
Yeah,
And that she was talking about her mom flirting?
that's right.
Okay. And you said there were other instances of domestic conflict. What were they?
Yeah, just, when you're an only child, sort of growing up and being in the house and spend a lot of time alone in your room, you hear what everyone in the house is talking about. So there were many, many occasions when I overheard discussions like this, discussions about infidelity. Now, in instances in where they erupted into like a bigger argument, these two that we've discussed come to me immediately off the top of my head are, for some reason, core memories for me. I don't know why. But there were, there's always murmurings and discussions and stuff going on, remarks that are made about someone's boyfriend and, stuff like that. So
And this was all when everybody was living in Canada, right?
that's correct.
And how old were you when they moved to Los Angeles?
I was, I believe, 18. I was 18 years old. 18 or 19.
18 or 19. And that was how many years before your
That
dad was killed?
It was about 6 or 7 years.
6 or 7 years before your dad was killed.
Yes. Yeah.
And you before your dad was killed, and it sounds like after, you had a fairly good relationship, it would be fair to say, with Monica?
I wouldn't say a good relationship. I would say it could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. We were friendly. We had a friendly relationship. But I wouldn't say we weren't close in any respects like that. You know, whenever there's a step parent, step kid relationship, there's always some, you know, there's always a bit of animosity there. But could have been a lot worse, that's for sure.
Animosity by who, Mr. Sementilli?
From both parties, probably. I mean, I have more than one step parent even, so maybe, you know, I reflect on this stuff a lot more. But there's always a little bit of animosity that kind of gets in the way in that relationship with you and that person. I'm sure there are instances of people who have great relationships with their step parents. But for me, it was as what you would expect with a step parent. Yeah.
Okay. What was your animosity against your stepmom?
Just that this person's not my mom. Just like it's the same situation on my mom's side as well. You know, just that something happened that caused my family to not be like everyone else's family. So.
And your mom and your dad had gotten a divorce, correct? And your dad then married Monica, correct?
Yes, correct.
But that is what you're describing as the animosity.
It's kind of hard to describe. It's hard because it's like you know, it's like a wart that's always there, and it's the evil stepmother wart that's always there on your relationship, so to speak, right? There's always a mustache on the Mona Lisa with that relationship. It wasn't ever going to be like a true guardian and someone who needs guarding. It was just your run-of-the-mill stepmom, stepkid relationship, full of, you know, angst growing up and a little bit of resentment, but overall friendliness, and could have been a lot worse.
Okay. Mr. Sementilli, you described having come to Los Angeles in the fall of 2016 for a visit, correct?
That's correct.
And this was the fall before...
Sorry to correct you. I visited in August.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was my mistake. In August of 2016. And your dad was killed in January, right?
Of 2017, that's right.
Yes, okay. And you stayed in Los Angeles for 3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you stay?
I stayed mostly in that upstairs office area.
Okay.
Where they had a bed there, yeah.
Okay, and that was with your girlfriend at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And you stayed there for just a vacation? There was some purpose, or just to visit with your family?
Just to see my family, yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Sementilli, you described some kind of incident where you said Monica had gone out and purchased a Fiat. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Was that incident you're describing when your dad and Monica went out to get the car?
No.
Your dad wasn't with her?
My dad was not there.
At all?
Monica came in from the garage and said that she bought a new Fiat, and then the rest of the story about the tantrum to get the better deal, manipulate the dealership people to get a lower cost.
So Monica came in from the garage, but your dad and Monica had gone to the dealership to purchase the Fiat, correct?
I can't attest to that. To my knowledge, Monica went to the dealership.
So you don't know whether your dad was there?
I don't think my dad was there. I was not told my dad was there. My dad, I presumably, would have been at work when this was going on because it was during the day. She came in and told me the story, threw a tantrum in front of the dealership. And in fact, if my dad was there, I don't think the tantrum would have happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
But setting aside what you think or don't think about
Sure.
what somebody else would have done.
Yeah.
You don't know one way or the other whether your dad accompanied your stepmom to the dealership that day, correct? You don't know.
Overall.
I was never told that my dad went to that dealership with Monica. It was
enough.
my understanding that Monica went to that dealership on her own, and she was the only one there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mr. Sementilli, you talked earlier about learning about your dad's death. And I just want to ask you a few questions about this. You described how you first got a call from Jess, correct?
Yep.
And that's your stepsister?
My half-sister,
I'm
Jessica.
sorry, your half-sister. And you didn't at first believe that it was real?
Yep.
And you actually tried to call your dad?
Yes.
Okay. And then at some point you called Jess back?
I either called Jessica back or Jessica called me back. It was one of the two. But yes, the phone conversation restarted itself. Yep.
Okay. And you're not sure whether she called you back or you called her back, but you got on the phone with Jessica.
Yes.
And what did you talk about?
So the first time when she answered the phone, she said, "Oh my God, you have to help someone kill Dad." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I thought I don't know, they were up to some hijinks, who knows. And then slowly kind of realized, okay, this is not like a call I've received before. I said, just slow down, let me talk to Dad. Of course, that's not going to happen. So then I believe that's when I hung up, tried to call my dad's, no answer. And then after that ended up being back on the phone again through Jessica's cell phone number. And then speaking with Jessica, yeah, not much was said. She said someone killed him, someone slit his throat, and then the phone was passed off to Deborah Obad.
Okay. Before it was passed off to Deborah Obad, Mr. Sementilli, when you were talking to Jessica, it's fair to say she was hysterical?
Jessica was freaking out, yeah.
Okay. And I think you described at the time she was overwhelmed.
That would seem appropriate, the appropriate word to use, yeah.
Okay, okay. And how long were you speaking to Jessica before she passed the phone off, as you said?
Not long, with a matter of seconds.
Okay. And then you got on the phone with who you've described as Deborah Obad, correct?
Yep.
And you knew Deb, correct?
Yes.
You were friendly with Deb?
I was friendly with Deb, yes.
And Deb was a friend of your mom and dad's? Or stepmom and dad's?
Deborah was a friend of my dad and Monica, yes.
Okay. Both of them?
Yes.
Okay. And you had seen her frequently at the house?
When I visited California, Deborah would appear, yeah, once every few days, yeah.
Okay. And you had spent any time with Deborah prior?
Yeah, for sure. In the backyard, chatting. She had recently adopted a son. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And when you got on with Deborah that night, it was Deborah. Well, let me ask you, what did Deborah tell you exactly?
Deborah said, she's trying to explain the situation to me because Jessica was hysterical, and that's all who I'd spoken to at that point. So Deborah comes on and is slowly, as best as she can, explaining to me what's going on. And then the conversation turns
Okay. I'm
to
sorry.
money.
Let me stop you. I was asking you what she said to you. So she was explaining what was going on. What was she saying to you as best you can recollect?
Yes, it looks like people broke in. Your dad is dead. There are cops here. Yeah, stuff like that.
Anything else that she said to you?
Then talking about money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before she started talking to you about money, did she say anything else about your dad's killing or anything to do with that?
Yes, like I said, when Jessica handed off the phone in hysterics, Deborah came on the phone and explained to me slowly and calmly what was happening at the house there at the moment, which is the killing.
Okay. And then you said she started talking to you about money?
Yes, then money became the topic of conversation.
As best you can, Mr. Sementilli, What do you recall Deborah Obad said to you about money
Yes.
in that call?
So Deborah said, Monica is freaking out about money because her and the girls are not going to have any. Now that my dad's gone and there's no paycheck, then Deborah tells me, you, which is me, have a lot of life insurance coming to you, and that I said to Monica, Deborah says to Monica, that Lou will help with money by giving some of this to them. And I'm on the other phone like, okay. I just don't really know what to say at the moment, but
Okay.
that's what happened.
Let me ask you about that. So it was Deborah who said you have a lot of life insurance coming,
I was on the phone with Deborah, so yes,
and she said that to you.
she said that to me.
And Deborah told you that you had some kind of policy that money was coming directly to you?
Yes, through conversations she must have had with other people who knew, presumably Monica. Yes, she was telling me about this life insurance that's coming to me separate because of my dad's previous marriage. And that was also specifically mentioned, yes,
Okay, by Deborah.
by Deborah.
And you don't know at that point or any point where she got that information. You just know that Deborah was the one who was telling you that there was a separate life insurance policy and you were going to be a beneficiary of that.
Yes, and
Okay.
that I was to give some of this to Monica.
You're saying that Deborah, in that phone call, told you that you were supposed to give money to Monica.
Yes, and not even that I was supposed to, but that she assured Monica that I would.
She told you that, Deborah told you that she had assured Monica that you would give her money from your life insurance.
That's correct.
And that was that very first phone call.
That's correct.
Okay. And you're sure of that?
I'm correct. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
So it was Deborah who told you about a separate life insurance policy, and it was Deborah who said to you that you should give some of the money to Monica from that life insurance policy.
So just that last part, the language, it was already presumed that I was going to give the money.
So she told you were going to give the money.
Yes. So it was almost as if Deborah was recounting a conversation she had with Monica to me.
But you don't know that, right?
I don't know what.
You don't know that Monica and Deborah ever had a conversation, correct?
I don't know it with absolute certainty.
Correct.
However, she knew things that she couldn't have possibly known without.
Your Honor, I would object. He's speculating about
This
it.
thing? I rolled.
Thank you. Mr. Sementilli, in that first call where Deborah, you said, told you in a way that presumed you were going to give money from this separate insurance policy that you never knew anything about to Monica. You, in fact, later complained to the detectives that you thought it was presumptuous of Deborah Obad to tell you something about giving money, as if it was she expected you to do it, correct?
Correct. What was presumptuous was that she was answering on my behalf about something that I didn't know about or even know that, I just thought this is a little bit strange topic of conversation to be happening an hour after my father was murdered. Yes, very strange to bring this up at all, yeah.
Okay. And isn't it true, Mr. Sementilli, that when Deborah at some point passed the phone to Monica, what she said to you was, don't worry, your dad's going to take care of you, or your dad is taking care of you. Isn't that correct?
I can restate what was said to me if you'd like.
Yes.
Yes. So when the phone
Well,
was...
first of all, is that correct that she said your dad's going to take care of you?
Counsel, when you say she,
I'm
which
sorry,
of the two women are you
Miss-
referring to?
Miss Sementilli.
When Monica came on the phone, she
Yes.
said, your dad took care of you, there's lots of money coming to you, you'll be able to buy a house, you'll be able to buy a car.
Okay. She talked to you about continuing in school?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. So your dad's going to take care of you. There'll be money to buy a house, money to go to school.
There's money coming to you,
Okay.
yeah.
And she never said anything about life insurance, correct?
No, this is what she's talking about. She's talking about the life
No,
insurance.
you believed it was what she was talking about, but she never said anything about life insurance specifically, correct?
So whether or not she said those two words, life and insurance, to me, it didn't matter because I knew what she was talking about,
Okay.
especially the fact that Deborah was on a moment before talking about this life insurance. So yes, she was talking about the life insurance.
Thanks for being clear about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. And after she told you this, did you have any other conversation with Monica?
That night, specifically,
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Okay. And when you were on the phone with Monica, you said she was hyperventilating?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you tell me the conversation lasted how long?
It wasn't very long. It was 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Okay. So you made immediate plans to come down to Los Angeles?
After the murder,
Yes.
as a family, we came down, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And you got down there when?
I don't remember the exact day. I'm sure this is all on the record there. I attended the events that were here. Yeah.
Okay. And at some point, you stayed how long when you were down in Los Angeles?
For that funeral, I want to say it was probably like 5 days, 5 or 6 days, and then we all went back to Ontario.
And did you come back again?
The next time after that I came back to California was for Baker's guilty sentencing, which was 2 years ago.
Okay. So between the time you came down, you never came back to Los Angeles after that first service that you came down to in Los Angeles, correct?
That's correct. I did not go again to Los Angeles between February of 2017 and July of 2023.
You testified earlier, Mr. Sementilli, about a separate life insurance policy that your dad had purchased where you were the sole beneficiary.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
And you learned about that for the first time from Deborah Obad that night.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And your dad had purchased it after, I understand from the year of purchase, after he and Monica were together?
He got that life insurance after he and my mom separated. As per Canadian law, at the time, he had to set up that life insurance for me.
And he set up that life insurance after he and Monica were together, correct?
I don't know that. I don't know when it was set up. To my knowledge, it was about the divorce between him and my mom. So,
I'm just asking you when, if you know.
oh, I don't know when. So I
Okay.
didn't even know it existed until I received it, basically. So,
Okay.
no, I don't know.
And once you knew it had existed, you learned that there was what kind of policy? You said a Manulife policy?
The company was Manulife, I believe. Yeah.
Manulife?
Manulife, yeah.
And you were the beneficiary, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how much money was coming to you from that policy?
So that initial policy from my mom and dad's divorce from the early 90s was $150,000 Canadian.
$150,000 Canadian.
That's right.
And you actually, you learned of it the night he died, and you filed a claim with Manulife, correct, February 9th?
File a claim with Manulife?
Yes.
Did I file a claim with Manulife?
Yes.
I don't recall. What I remember is just a check showing up at my door, to be honest with you. I don't really recall reaching out or having an issue or having to deal with Manulife in that regard. I just remember it kind of just came to my door randomly one day.
Mr. Sementilli, when you filed the claim with Manulife, you received money from that claim?
Your Honor, I would object. Assumes facts not.
I'm sorry.
Sustained.
I'm sorry. I'll go back. Mr. Sementilli, at some point you received a check from Manulife, correct?
That's correct. The $150,000 from Manulife that was set in life insurance when my mom and dad divorced.
And you received that in March of 2017.
It
correct?
sounds correct. Yeah.
So you're saying that you're not sure who filed a claim or who asked that the monies be paid, but in March of 2017, in fact, you received the benefits from that life insurance policy.
I'm going to object, Your Honor, again. It assumes facts and it's
Sustained.
not evidence.
Did you receive money from Manulife for the insurance policy?
Objection. Ask and answer.
It's overruled.
Did you?
I did.
And you received that, you think, in March?
Around that time, yeah.
Okay. And you, in fact, made the claim and dealt with the claim yourself, correct?
Objection again, Your Honor. This has been asked and answered. It
No, it
assumes
assumes
facts,
fact, not
not
evidence,
evidence.
counsel. Excuse me. It assumes fact, not evidence. Sustained.
Make the claim.
Sir.
Oh,
Do you recall how the claim was made?
no, I don't. I received a $150,000 check.
Counsel, there was no evidence that a claim was made.
Do you know how you were paid from the Manulife policy?
I received a check at my door with my name on it.
Okay. You, in fact, Mr. Sementilli, sent a series of texts to Ms. Sementilli about you making a claim and processing a claim. Isn't that right?
It may have been the case that I had to send a death certificate.
Okay. Might it refresh your recollection to see the text where you're talking about processing the claim with Manulife?
By all means.
Okay.
Counsel, can I see?
Yes. Showing you,
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object. This is not inconsistent, so it's not impeachment, and therefore it's hearsay.
Right? It's not even for impeachment yet. It's overruled.
do you see a text that you sent to Monica Sementilli?
Yep.
And does that refresh your recollection about talking about receiving life insurance?
So I'm going to
Your
stop.
Honor, I'm going to object. There's no indication he needs his memory refreshed.
That was not the,
regarding-
excuse me a second, that was not the original purpose of refreshing his memory. It
Precisely.
was relating to a claim.
Yes.
Understood?
Yes.
I've got the text.
It's fine, ask the proper question. please.
Yes, Your Honor. And showing you this text that you sent, it looks like 2/5, I'm blind.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
2-9.
2/9? Can you review that text about processing a claim for insurance? Does
Yeah,
that
I mean-
refresh your recollection?
Sure. It's one line of text that says, I dealt with Manulife, the claim is being processed. I think I maybe recall having to send them a death certificate as standard procedure for this kind of thing. But like when you say like make a claim, I just sent them a PDF and then they gave me the check to the door, right? I dealt with Manulife, the claim is being processed.
And that was when?
This says February 9th.
Okay. So 3 weeks after your dad died, you were somehow interacting with Manulife, and you were relaying to Monica that Manulife was processing the claim.
That's correct, yeah. Now, at this time as well, I want to add.
Well, but
oh,
if
can
I
not?
may, you
Oh,
can add. You
I can add?
Yes.
Right now?
Yes.
Okay, sure. It was being suggested by Monica and everyone in my life to, be proactive about these matters. So, yeah, definitely. Here, exactly as it says, on February 9th, I dealt with Manulife, the claim is being processed. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
And in fact, after you were paid that life insurance, you at some point also learned that you were the beneficiary of a life insurance policy through your dad's company, correct?
Through MetLife, that's correct.
Okay. And you had a series of communications with your stepmom about the claim being filed for you, your sisters, your two half-sisters, and Monica, correct?
I don't recall that. Can you repeat the question again?
During that time period, after you had been paid for the Manulife policy, I think you testified earlier that you had a series of conversations with Monica,
Yes.
not on the phone, but mostly text,
Yes.
about the claim being filed and processed for the policy your dad had at the company.
That's correct.
Okay.
That was all in relation to Monica wanting her portion to be paid out. I was not involved. I don't remember ever being involved in dealing with that red tape or with those claims. With the MetLife check, once again, it was one of those situations where I go to my door one day and there's a massive check here with my name on it. And then when I relayed that to Monica as well, then there was a lot of frustration
Yes.
and coming on because she had not received hers.
Mr. Sementilli, am I correct that when you referred to those communications before and Ms. Silverman showed you pictures that Monica had sent to you of columns, portions of columns, those columns were for you and Jessica and Bella, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So there was communication about monies that you and Jessica Bella were expected to be received.
Yes, that's
Correct?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I got caught up on the making the claim language is what caught me up on the last one. But everything you just said is correct.
Okay. And did you send in any paperwork for the claim that was made on that policy that you and Jessica and Bella and Monica would receive?
I don't believe so. Again, it was one of those weird situations where I'm at home and to my door comes a check for $259,000. And I didn't know, I knew that something was to come. I didn't know when it was going to come. I had an idea of how much, thanks to this document that I saw 5-6 times. But yeah, it just kind of showed up one day. Yeah, I don't recall, yeah.
You testified earlier that when you received the money from Manulife, did I hear you say that you thought Monica was upset?
Yeah, whenever, it seemed to me that in general, whenever another beneficiary that was not Monica received money that was due to them, yeah, frustration, impatience would arise because she was being withheld from hers.
And when did that conversation take place?
Those sentiments, I don't know if I want to say a conversation took place, but we'll say whenever it was brought up that I got the MetLife, that the manual, whatever, it was, immediately the tone changed. Is it, when did you get it? How much was it? I wonder why they're not doing it for me. I'm going to have to reach out to them here. I've got a meeting with them on this day. It was a bunch of goings-ons about her receiving hers, and that was going on for months. So naturally, when someone came in and said, hey, I got mine, frustration occurred. Yeah.
And are you saying that took place in the conversation when she learned that you had gotten the payment from Manulife?
That was one of the, for sure, that was definitely a watershed, one of those moments, yes. That was an emblematic moment.
Okay, but the first time you told her that you got the Manulife policy was on March 6th, correct?
Are we referring to the text messages
Yes.
again? Yeah.
And you sent a text to Monica, correct?
Yes, right here.
And you said the first insurance lump came tonight, did you?
Yes.
Okay. And you said, feels weird seeing 6 digits there. Okay.
I was a broke college student, so that was very weird. Yeah.
Okay. But Monica's reaction was she was happy for you.
So that's what the first line says. But then it's, then the rest of the message is just like, things are not good on my end. I haven't gotten my thing yet. That's basically the gist of this. Is things are taking much longer here, but hopefully, yeah, you know. But sure, what else is she going to say? I'm not happy
Okay.
for you.
Mr. Sementilli, I just want to be fair. You said to Monica, Monica said to you in reaction to receiving a text where you told her you had received the Manulife policy. Monica responded, it looks like within a couple of minutes, and she responded, "Good for you, Luigi. I'm so happy."
Yeah.
That's how she responded, correct?
It's here in front of both of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Sementilli, in fact, in your communications with Monica, which you say were mostly in text after that, between March and June of 2017, there were a number of times where you asked her to give you a status on the insurance, correct?
Sure.
You a number of times reached out and asked, has there been any progress?
Yes.
What's happening?
Yep.
And she responded to you, correct?
Yes.
So it wasn't Monica just reaching out to you about insurance. You were actually initiating contact with her to ask about the status of life insurance.
That's right, because she was my family member who was saying to me that she was on hard times financially speaking. So this was the bulk of her headaches and frustration she was dealing with at the time, was trying to get this life insurance for her. So naturally, I'm going to check in, and when I do, I'm going to say, what's the latest? How are things going? What's the red tape you're dealing with today? Have you received what's due to you yet? So yes, to that end, I did say that, yeah.
You talked earlier, Mr. Sementilli, about your dad being cremated. And I just wanted to be clear, did you not tell other family members, your Aunt Morella specifically, that your dad had wanted to be cremated?
Did I tell them?
Yeah.
No, because I did not know that to be true.
Okay. So as you testify here today, you didn't know, you'd never spoken to your dad about what his wishes were or what he wanted should he pass away?
No, not to my knowledge, and there was never, no, he never said definitively, nor was it written down in any, last will or anything like that. I don't ever recall having a conversation with my dad where he says, yes, I absolutely need to be cremated. I don't recall ever having a conversation like that.
And you never had a conversation with your dad at any time about what he did want or not want, correct?
We probably talked about death more than the average father-son relationship, but I can't recall anywhere, on my heart where it says, my dad said this to me and he was very serious about it. I don't have that anywhere there. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I suppose the answer is no, I don't. Yeah.
I appreciate your honesty. And you also talked about, Mr. Sementilli, some event where Monica was in town for one of the memorial services, and you went to a bank to look at a safety deposit box.
Yes.
Is that right? Is that correct?
Yes, we went to the TD Bank safe deposit box, yeah.
When was that?
I believe that would have been end of February, perhaps sometime in March. It's when they had visited. It may have been around, perhaps leading up to Easter time, around then. Yeah.
So Easter time would be March or April?
Something to that. It was around that time, yeah.
And did you know your dad had any safety deposit box?
Did I know? No, I didn't.
So it was Monica who told you that he had a safety deposit box?
Yeah, she said we're coming here to close some accounts that we have left in Canada, including a safety deposit box that we're not sure what we're going to find inside of it.
Okay. And she invited you to go with her, correct?
She said, do you want to tag along? Yeah.
Okay. And you decided to tag along. And Mr. Sementilli, it was you who at some point discussed with Monica about your dad having a second family or a secret life?
No, those thoughts would never have crossed my mind. That came from Monica.
Okay. But you went with her
Yep.
and you opened the safety deposit box. You saw her open it?
Yes.
How was it opened? I shouldn't presume. How was it opened?
How was it
Yeah.
opened? I believe an employee led us into the back. They opened the larger door, full of a room with many small lock boxes, opened it up and showed us inside.
Okay. And there was nothing in it?
It was empty.
And then you described at some point a conversation you had with Monica at the Woodbridge house. That's her mom's house.
Yep, that's right.
And who was there?
It was just me and her having this conversation.
Okay.
It was on the porch.
On the porch, separate from the family.
That's right.
And that's where you say she discussed with you about some stock options.
That's correct.
And did you talk with her about what any of those were worth at the time?
Yes. So I was told that stock options were going to be liquidated to the tune of about $100,000. And I was asked to relinquish my portion of that, of what was due to me, because of the financial struggles, and also because I was due to receive so much more than my half-sisters that it seemed like the equitable thing to do as well.
And so you did that, correct?
I did not, no.
You
No,
didn't do that.
So at the time, in that converstion, I said, yeah, sure, I have no problem with that. But I never heard about it again. I never signed anything. I don't know where that money is. If it's, yeah, I don't know. I never heard about it again. But that conversation happened, yeah.
So the truth is that Monica never again brought it up with you, correct?
That specific thing, I'm not sure. But issues of money came up again. Just whether or not that plan was executed, no, I don't believe so.
Well, you know so, right? It was never executed, correct? You never gave up options that were due and entitled to you, correct?
That's correct. We had other conversations about money, but in terms of that specific plan and its execution, it was not executed, to my knowledge.
And you never turned over any money from what you were receiving from your dad's benefits, life insurance, or anything else to Monica,
That's
correct?
correct. I never physically handed over any money. I had only agreed to in that one conversation, verbally.
And you were with Monica for a number of occasions memorializing your dad during this period after he was killed?
You'd have to tell me which events you're talking about specifically.
Well, you were not at all of the events?
I'd have to see a list of them all to determine which I was at and which
Okay,
I was not.
okay. After your dad died, there was an event in Los Angeles at a funeral home, a memorial.
Yep. Was that in February?
Uh-huh.
I was at that one, yeah.
And then Monica flew back with your dad's body to Canada,
Yep,
correct?
that's right.
And you were at the event in Canada with her?
The viewings and the funeral there, yes.
Okay. And then Monica returned again on the 1-month anniversary of your dad's death for a mass, correct?
Okay.
Did you go to that?
Yes, I believe so. I think that was at Queen of Heaven too. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Queen of Heaven, yeah, sorry.
Okay. And then you saw Monica after that how many times?
I think it was when I remember there was an Easter visit. I think the Easter visit was the last time. Yeah.
Okay. And you spoke earlier about you ended up taking your dad's Rolex. Do you recall that testimony? You have your dad's Rolex?
I do. I was given my dad's Rolex, yeah.
And you were given that by Monica?
That's correct.
And she gave that to you when you were down at the home after his death?
That's correct. The first time, as soon as I saw her in person for the first time, she had the Rolex in her hand and gave it to me.
And Morella, your aunt, was there?
My Aunt Morella was there along with the rest of our family, yes.
Okay. And you, Morella's sons, Fabio's nephews were there?
Yes.
And there was a discussion about things that the nephews might want of Fabio's?
I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't part of those conversations, I think. I'm not, yeah. So I
Okay.
guess I'm not going to speculate on that.
But you, Mr. Sementilli, were there when Monica presented you Fabio's Rolex.
That's
correct?
right, the one he was wearing when he was murdered, yeah.
And you, in fact, asked to take a few other items from Fabio's.
I
things.
did, yeah. So I
Okay.
wasn't sure when I would be back next, and that's all I would have from him, right? So those items are still, highly precious items to me.
And
Like
that
his
was
scarf,
meaningful.
his shoes.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And that was meaningful to you.
To be able to get some last items from my dad, who was taken away from me very brutally, yes, that was very meaningful. Yeah.
Let me interrupt. Take our lunch and recess until 1:30. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be in recess until then. The admonition, as always, applies not to discuss this case either among yourselves or with anyone else or form express any opinions of the